technology is not something that I have accessed before this Wednesday group. And I'm loving the sense of gathering. I'm surprised at the sense of being together in this technological way is so vital and so juicy. Yeah. So I love this and I appreciate everybody who shows up so that we can play together. Yeah.
Hang on one second. Let me get this recording sign. I don't think we can get that.
Sometimes I have a mic in front of my face. Sometimes I have a sign in front of my face. It varies. You know?
Hang on. I'm going to do something radical for a second. Just everybody bear with me.
They were here and now they're not.
Good. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Now we see you, Polly.
All right. Good. Okay, let's just join together in this inner space that we're all very familiar with through our breath. Oh, closing your eyes, opening your heart, and taking a deep breath. Just on the exhale, relax into that spacious opening into awake awareness. We're falling out of our minds and into our hearts. And beyond that we might call the heart is the spaciousness out of which everything emerges. This is the most vital, the most alive. This is the most scintillating, arising nature of reality. And it is the one I am. Tattvam asi, thou art that. We are here now. We're experiencing it together. It's vital that we experience this together and knowing this is possibility. Always right here, right now. The minute the mind quietens, we can acknowledge and recognize and arise consciously into this, our true nature. This body-mind unit, all of our body-mind units arise here in this awake awareness. This awake awareness is not within the body-mind. The body-mind is within this awake awareness, alive and happening and celebrating. Yeah. Out of the mind and back into the heart, experienced as this space, we know what it feels like to be alive, to be present, to be here now, because this does not partake, awake awareness does not partake of linear sequential time or limited space. It is now here, the eternality, the infinity of it, the fullness of it. Feel what it feels like to be that. Knowing ourselves as that, then we deal differently with an idea of that there's a problem or that there is something that should be different. From this space, we are in full yes. This is the space of yes. This is the space of awake, vitality, fun, and we celebrate here together. So relaxing into this space, experience it on your own, noticing that there's no edge, there's no limit, that anything that arises here comes to pass, but this space is eternal and it is the one I am. And so it is.
I'll tell you who else has joined.
Mhm.
So Lindsay and Vandy and Jean Hopkins and Kim Rosen.
Right.
We've got everybody.
Is this
Oh,
somebody-
Deborah and Gio joined too.
Right. Somebody new here in the room?
Yeah, some new people came. Mira, you and the two of you who just came in. Can you say your name? Probably can't see you.
Cyrus? I think.
Yeah.
The ones that were here yesterday. I saw you in the pool. I saw all of you in the pool. That beautiful group of women after pickleball came and were in our pool out there, and it was delightful. Right, so that space, the question that comes up for all of us is, if that's who I am, what the hell is going on in my life, right? It's like, and that is who I am. That's who I am. You are. That's what's true. And yet we have this consistent difficulty and consternation that's even, no pun intended, blowing up in more places than Florida and the Ukraine right now. So that is the question for everybody. It's the curiosity. It's the bafflement. Like, how can that be going on? I know myself as that spacious, awake awareness, even when there are little intruders and intrusions, the predominance of that opening, that true nature is so thorough, so present, so clearly the source. And I am that. And yet here we have the experiences of separation and of conflict and of not being happy, right? So I think the answer to that is, it's as if we've confiscated that on behalf of a mind that insists on duality. When the oracle at Delphi, the temple of Apollo, created the admonition, know thyself, she wasn't talking about our fear-based ego selves. She was talking about that self that we all just fell into, entered into, immersed ourselves, knowingly present as that consciousness, awake, aware, vital. But we insist on this limited, linear, sequential timeline with fear about the future and guilt about the past. And there we are in suffering. So the possibility here that's available to us in any moment is, if something is going on in our mind, because that's where the story is, right? That's where all the limitations show up. Yeah. And so whenever that's going on, we have the possibility, with just one breath, coming home, coming back into what we could call our happy place. So, and not to make this a kid's show, but that's what's true. What everybody wants is what's already there. And that's what's already true about each one of us. That's where we show up and experience exactly the same thing. That's where everybody's experience is the same. That's where oneness is, right? And so when whatever we're believing about ourselves that is a limitation, are projecting on others as a criticism, when that falls away, we're present in this present moment, experiencing that field of yes, that field of awakening, that field of fun and happy. And this is it right here, right now. You've never been anywhere else. The experience of the idea that we can get outside of time and get into the present moment. We've never been anywhere else but the present moment. This is it, always, this is it, right here, right now. The fullness of that, the field is represented there in the present moment. But we insist on going into the mind about a future that we don't know anything about, or being caught in a past that we feel guilty and sad about. And so our experience is not here now where life is. Our experience becomes in that narrow little contorted, untrue mental concept. You know, one of my favorite quotes from Byron Katie is, if you want to be in terror, get a future. So that's what we do. We go into our mind, we go into the possibility in the future, and then we're caught energetically And just to remind you, the body takes the hit. So whatever the frequency is of the story that's going on in your mind, the body is receiving that energy, that frequency. And so as we get older, we start to deal with the response of the body after 50 or 60 or 70 or 80 years, having been subjected to the frequency of fear generated by a mind caught in fear. We don't have to do it that way. We're free to be right here, right now, to notice what we're believing if it's not what feels good, and to remind ourselves that there's a choice, that we have a conscious choice that's available to us in the moment. And I have people every day that I work with who tell me they don't think they have a choice. They feel as if that's already what's running the show and they can't break out of it, right? And that is a self-fulfilling prophecy, self-fulfilling, concern. So in any moment, the choice is like with oneself, showing up for yourself and doing what I call being on your own side. It's a coming home. It's a coming home to acknowledging what I want to experience, because if you tell the truth, you don't want to experience fear. You're not interested in experience conflict or whatever you're seeing on the news. You're interested in experience oneself as awake awareness, true nature. You know, the fact that we have these 3D realities, we have those virtual headsets on, right? And we have these avatars, these body-mind units, these dissociative entities to run around in and have the fun of interacting. Yeah, that doesn't take away from the least bit that we are the true nature as awake awareness, consciousness arising as realities for the fun of it. And yet we come here and through the fear goggles, we make it one problem after another. When the childhood wound occurs, when the person, each one of us thinking of ourselves as a person early on, when something happens and we believe that it means something about us, we're caught in that self-concept. And then it gets repressed and then we project it. So this is like, you know, I think of it as a cosmic joke. It's like, really? Who did that? Yeah. So what our job is to see what's being projected out there, to realize that it's a distortion field based on the lens that was created by our early wounding. And in that moment, it's as if we're backing out of, as consciousness, we're backing out of the projection. We're leaning back in the Game Boy chair, taking off our virtual glasses and saying, whoa, look at that game. Yeah. So the possibility of seeing what's going on without believing that it's about me is perhaps the first step, right? Because that's what frees you up. Seeing what the scenario is, seeing what appears to be happening, and realizing that it's just what's happening. That's the first opening for many of us into what we call the witness state. That's a powerful thing to be able to be, the witness to whatever's going on, because that's the opening again into dropping the idea of being a me to whom it's happening, which is the trap that keeps you locked into the projection. So even though, you know, what I want to say about the witness state, the witness is the opening into our true nature as awake awareness. So we have that access all the time. There's that, it's not just a hint, it's an experiment, it's an experience, it's and not a technique so much as an aptitude that we all have of witnessing. And in that witnessing, we start to see that's what's happening, and I am right here. Yeah, it's not happening to a me. As we do that more and more, then we handle things differently out there, because if we believe it's happening to a me, we have been latched into the projection where there is suffering. If we believe that it's about a me, we're caught in our mind, in our fear-based mind, and things look crazy and difficult and impossible. So I guess where I would love for us to get to today is that awareness of my my access to shifting the reality by shifting my perception. The reality is that my perception has been distorted by the early wound and the distortion field that that creates, and to back out of that enough to see it as something that I have access to. Awake awareness has access to that. It doesn't have to collapse into that. We've been used to collapsing into that and identifying with it. So this is the opportunity here. And this is what I'd love for us to have today as a takeaway, is that ability to know ourselves as the awake awareness that's having that. And if that's what I'm having, I cannot have it. I can choose to not have it. I have a choice. There's a field here in which I have a choice. Now, the mind is going to go crazy with this. It tends to do that because it doesn't want to lose its priority, its prerogative. It's been running the show, right? I have a hard time not going back to the fall, the garden story, where we were caught up with the idea of being like God, the idea of knowing, the idea of a mental ability to know, and thereby eating of the fruit of the knowledge of good and evil. Now we're caught in the distortion field because we're already in heaven. And now we're like, that looks like a good game, right? And then we're outside the garden because we're outside our hearts. We're now in our minds, caught in fear. But this is a homecoming. Today, when we sit like this, when we share that spacious, vibrant, awake awareness, that's the garden. That's our own hearts. And we've been playing this crazy game. So we handle the game effectively, and we have access to it in order to shift it by coming back to ourselves, releasing the frequency of fear that is in fact causing the matter of the conflict and the larger polarized reality. And in that releasing, create a new reality. So there are people like us who are willing to know more than just, I've got a problem, who have the possibility, we come together and we have the possibility of redreaming the reality to create a new world. Yeah. And immediately when you make the shift, and to the degree that you do make the shift to come home to yourself, to what I call being on your own behalf, to the degree that you do that, you will have a new world. I don't like to do the new age thing of you create your own reality, but you create your own reality, right? But there's a way in which it's more subtle than that, and it's more profound than that. And it has to do with the frequency that we emit and the frequency that we match, and then the way the world shows up, the way our world shows up, the way the collective world shows up. So we're responsible. We have a responsibility not to put sugar over shit or to pretend things are different than they are, but to be present and willing to come home to this place, and through a lens that's no longer a distortion field, connect differently, express differently, show up differently. So I think that's the takeaway that I've got for today, except whatever response there is to anybody's inquiry. Are we in good time now?
Yeah. So if you have a question or would like to talk with Pali, go ahead and either raise your hand with the reaction button, or put your question in chat, or say you want to talk in chat, and we'll spotlight you. Yeah. So Grace. Let me see.
Now, just in honor of, I'll try video. I'm sitting on my couch. I don't know. It's a pretty unflattering type view, but who cares? In this point, I'm trying to get past my my general discomfort with self over something more essential. So hi, everybody. So I just want to see, if I can, if I'm getting this. Okay, let me see here.
Yeah, just fix your hair first.
My vanity's creeping in, but I'm going to try to get past it. So I'm on my 13th day getting through COVID. This is the first day I've had some life force in me. But so what I want to see if I'm getting this right. The discomfort that I'm experiencing is more about the fear than it is about feeling like shit. My physical reality of going, oh my God, like, what if this never, here's the fear. What if this never goes away? What if I never feel normal again? How am I going to function? Versus, oh, here's what's going on. Here's what I'm experiencing. And it's a physical experience. Is it funny, Polly? Is this physical? Is this emotional? But
Yeah.
the question or the comment, or do I have this right, is she who is aware, she who is watching. I don't know if you ever read that great book, She Who Remembers. What a great book that was. In the awareness of that is the end of all the pain and suffering. The awareness of it is, okay, this is just what's happening. And so what I get mixed up about is the difference between physical pain and emotional pain. Like the emotional pain I can see comes from the story I'm telling about it. But then how is it that we come to peace with not feeling good physically? Which part of us, which part of me can rise above the emotional fear, which sometimes I can just go, okay, this is just the next circumstance I've been dealt in my curriculum of life. This is my curriculum that my karma has created. I'm here to experience acceptance and letting go. But what about the physical discomfort? What's the best pathway for that?
Thanks, sweetie. Thank you. I'm never laughing at you. I'm laughing with you because we're all caught up in this comedy of errors, right? Yeah. There's a really simple answer that you actually already know because we've talked about it, but I understand what happens when we are in suffering, and especially when it's a physical suffering. Our sense of ourself is diminished, and it gets occluded. You know what we do know. But the basic reality is there's no suffering without resistance. And all of us have had the experience of having something physically going on, and in a moment, because we didn't have well, this always happens in childbirth, right? You're in labor, and there's a point at which, oh, there's another thing I can do about this. It's going to happen, right? So
Right.
you give up resistance because you don't have a choice. But for all of us, we do have a choice in any moment with suffering to give up resistance. And that applies to emotional, spiritual consciousness, what we think of as consciousness suffering, which it doesn't, but it can feel that way. It can be confiscated on behalf of suffering, for sure. But it's like without resistance, it is just what's happening, right? Because that lack of resistance actually puts you into your true nature, no longer a me to whom it's happening, but it's I am here and that's what's happening. Because in that giving up of resistance, the body mind is seen as a part of this creation, not as the one I am. And that's the space we want to create more and more of, right? This is what I have. It's not who I am. This is what's happening there. I have the nervous system that's connected to that. So, but no resistance to it starts to move it around. It can create less pain, actually. You know, but if there is pain, and you take care of yourself, you know, you do whatever you do. I have a an opened bottle of extra strength Excedrin right by my bed. If it hurts, I'm taking one.
Now, what can we say to ourselves? I know you just said it. Let me see if maybe if I learned it. So if I'm in pain, if I'm in physical discomfort, I can observe that. I can recognize it. I can see it for what it is. But then what do you actually do about how frigging uncomfortable it is? Like,
Well,
how do you settle into that and let that be okay with no resistance?
Well, have you had, I think you've had, because I think you've shared with me that you've had the experience of letting the resistance go and having things ease up. Is that true?
Little, but I can't say I'm masterful
at
at it. What'd you say, Polly?
Said, how much did you let go, right?
that's
Yeah,
the
that's
question. Maybe
yeah,
that's the question.
and that's what I mean by, one of the things that creates resistance is our self-judgment. And giving up that is a part of letting go of the resistance to the condition, to the pain, whatever. It's most readily accessed through the breath and allowing, breathing and allowing, because at that point, the pain will probably start to move around if it's a physical pain. Yeah, so it's in realizing that when the pain moves around, already it's not so intractable. Already it's like, that's not quite what I thought it was, right? So it's like coming to be on your own behalf is a direction for consciousness, and the relaxing into that is a giving up of resistance. And that experience, that willingness changes every experience, whether it's a problem about money or a problem about the body or a problem about relationship. Yeah, resistance is what's creating suffering. There isn't any kind of suffering that's not created by some kind of resistance. Otherwise, it's just what's happening. Now, with resistance, the diabolical part of that, the cosmic joke is, if you resist it, it does persist. You will lock it into the body, into your circumstances. So, it behooves us to really get a handle on the allowing, letting go, letting be, the big word let.
And what I'm hearing is that one way through is breath, breathing, breath, settling in, letting that be how the let go can happen is a way. So thank you, Pali. I wish sometimes I had something new to ask about, but resistance seems to be the primary, everything kind of dilutes down into resistance. So it's a good thing to ask myself about.
It's a really good thing to ask. Thank you, sweetheart.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hi, Mama.
Hi, sweetheart. Is that my guy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks for being here. Love seeing you all the time and stuff.
Thank you, sweetheart. Thank you.
You reminded me of something I hadn't really thought of, which was the witness aspect of it, which is so important because for me, that is the point of neutrality. Almost like the concept of considering something without taking a side.
Right.
Like this, kind of.
Yeah. It turns, with the witness, it turns into what you have rather than what has you, right? Like that?
That's right. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, and then I think this is part of the launching point for a lot of this type of work, because from the neutrality, then you're actually making a decision, then you end up taking some action instead of running with a preconceived belief that is in fact, it's an action that preempts the whole thing.
Right. And probably screws it up, right?
like a paradigm is hard to accept sometimes, but yeah, we are locked into these false paradigms, I guess, which also takes you away from the witness sometime because it can already have a pre-prescribed set of supposed crises or something.
Right.
And
yeah, the collective conditioning is very powerful at that intersection in our consciousness that you're pointing to. It'll go into automatic.
You were hitting it in the beginning right away. My shirt for the week has been the only real crisis is that we're convinced that the world is in crisis. Or we've been convinced, or we convinced ourselves. But anyway, thanks so much, Mama.
Thank you, sweetheart.
Love
so
you.
glad you did. I love you.
Handsome boy.
Yeah. That's my Oregon boy. Thad, who's on here also, is in Montclair, New Jersey. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, Robert.
You have time. I know we've all heard it, but you could do a quick review of your 6 questions.
Oh.
Any new insights?
Yeah, well, I kind of get new insights all the time because of different people working with the 6 steps to freedom, which comes out of a protocol that was created by a man named Diederik Walsack, who does a Choose Again workshop in BC, Vancouver, and in Costa Rica. Brilliant. It's all based in A Course in Miracles. But the 6 steps are when you are triggered to realize that that's giving you access to what you've concluded that's been running the show. And so instead of feeling like you want to be override the trigger and be a nicer person, right? You use it on behalf of revealing what you're believing about yourself that's creating what I call the distortion field that's then showing up in your world. Yeah. And then you use that so that you see your part in how that is showing up. And that gives you access to, like I said, the childhood wound conclusion that is your fun at the core. I used to call the work I do core self-concept. At the core of your self-concept is this conclusion, like I'm not good enough or I don't matter, all of the ones that we all know psychologically. What the 6 steps do is they take you into that viscerally, and then instead of a therapeutic model of considering that information, we use the alchemy of forgiveness to dissolve it. So, you know, all of us that are on the Zoom and here in the room, a lot of our journey has been through a whole lot of what I think of as the therapeutic model, which in this spiritual journey would be called the progressive path. But it typically what it ends up being is working at the level of the problem on an identity that wants to get better. When in fact, what we are wanting to do and what this work does is you drop the illusion of being a limited fear-based person. And with that, you shift the reality. So it's not a therapeutic model. We're not trying to make you feel better about a wrong conclusion. Yeah. So the first step is I'm upset, I'm triggered. The second step is the acknowledgement that it's about me. In other words, and that this can be a really high bar, because for a lot of us, the trigger looks like it was what she did and she did it, and I know it's her fault, right? So we're not interested in going into the realization that it's about me. If it's happening to me, it is about me. And so the second step is about me. The third step is to name the feeling that arose. Like I felt powerless, or I felt wrong, or I felt saddened, or whatever. The fourth step is through free association. And actually, I think Diederik Walsack's clinics or his workshops, I think they use holotropic breathing. I believe that this is a cognitive process, that this was a cognitive conclusion, and that you can reach it that way. So I don't do that, but it's certainly available to anybody here who uses that technique. So but the fourth step is to, through free association or holotropic breathing or whatever slightly altered state, helps you to recall what you're looking for is the earliest time I experienced exactly that same feeling. And it might look like, mommy never fed me on time. I remember my whole my infanthood, crying in the crib, feeling hungry and unattended to. And I concluded from that, because that's the fifth step. What did you conclude when that happened? I concluded from that I don't matter, that I'm like a throwaway, I'm not important. And with that goes, the minute that is concluded, it's so unacceptable to the being that it gets repressed. And anything that's repressed is going to be projected. So now we have the information that creates the distortion field. It's like it creates a lens through which now we see the world. And at the same time, because something happened in the apparent outer, and for the infant, it's all been like the experience of being here, being alive. That's my foot, that's my bottle, whatever. But all of a sudden, we're so hungry, we're feeling so abandoned, and we turn toward the external. And in that turning, we're now magnetized into a projection that's perceived through a distortion field. And so we're caught. That's where we're all caught. It's a house of mirrors, basically. And so out of that, we are creating over and over the same experience of our earlier conclusion, but now it's projected. And so the world shows us at every hand, through relationship, through circumstances, that we're not important, that we're a throwaway. In the 6 steps protocol, the 6th step is, having seen that, I forgive myself for ever having believed that I was unimportant. It was unavoidable at the time, but it was never true. And the forgiveness is like alchemy. It's not a therapeutic model. It's not to try to go to the other end of the stick. Oh, you're really a good person, right? It's like, it's not about trying to convince ourselves that we're good. It's about letting that go. And in that letting go, we come into our true nature as awareness, right? I'm not a throwaway. I am the space in which this entire reality arises. And coming into that, and it comes in cycles. So this is the work of many lifetimes, as I think. So coming to this, we access this, and then we have the beginning of the unraveling of, again, the core woundedness. It's like a gestalt with many facets. It's giving off a signal. It's creating a distortion field. I mix metaphors all the time. I love it. But it's creating all of the experience and the idea that there's an out there. If she was just nicer to me, this would not be a problem. But the second step is, it's about me. What's going on here? Yeah. So is that helpful to you, Robert? I don't know.
Yes.
Good. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the question. Yeah. So that's basically what I call the technology that I use in working with people, especially if they're on the consciousness track, so to speak.
So we have time for about one more question before we go into meditation. Anybody have a question?
I have a question. You said the other day, Polly, that all judgment is self-judgment.
Mm.
And I'm like, really? Even when I'm judging somebody else?
Yeah.
So can you talk a little about that?
Yeah, I love that question, Linda. Yeah. Yeah, because and it leads into such an opening into the nature of what's true once we've dropped the wound, right? Because the wound is basically some aspect of the self-judgment. So what the self-judgment does, it's like, because we project it now, we're going to see it everywhere. So when we realize that I am not the conclusion I reached when I was 9 months old or 3 years old, that judgment, I'm a throwaway, I don't matter. Now we've been projecting it, so we've been looking out there through that lens of that judgment, right? And that's what separates us from our reality. That judgment is the separating. So when our self-judgment falls away, that falls away, because what it was created out of is the projected self-judgment. Without the self-judgment, there is no judgment. Yeah. So, and when that falls away, you have the experience of the ease of connection with your world, with the apparent others in your world. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
So the self-judgment, the judgment creates a barrier, a lens again, through which you're going to be projecting judgment onto others. Yeah. And without your self-judgment, they're just doing what they're doing. It's not wrong. It doesn't matter. It doesn't mean anything. But with the self-judgment projected, then I can't believe they did that. Yeah. Can you believe that he left me? I don't know. It's like, yeah. So that's why the projection is always between you and the apparent reality. And when the self-judgment goes, that judgment falls away and you're present in the moment with what is. Yeah. Thank you. Yes, and it feels like that. Like happy, like easy. Thank you. So when we go into meditation, it's 45 minutes.
Yeah, can I say something before
Please.
we do?
Yeah.
Yeah. I just want to say that if you want to make a donation, I'm going to put the Venmo and PayPal in. If you are not on the email list and would like to be, go ahead and put your email in the chat here and we'll make sure you get on the email.
Right.
I think that's it. If you're coming in person, please text Yarrow. So there's a limited amount of space we have here. And so we have a certain number of chairs. Please text her and let her know so that we are in good alignment with our hosts here.
And the number will be in the email.
Yeah, I'll have Yarrow's number in the email. Right.
So we text you our email so we can get on the list.
No, you'll be on the email list. You'll be on the email list, but if you're coming,
I
you're
don't
gonna,
think you,
then you'll give it to me afterwards.
she gets the email, I get it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, I think that's it. Yeah, 45 minutes of silent meditation.
Right. So the opportunity here is in this field that's been created by our time together, and the exchange is that we'll have a 45-minute access collectively and individually to the awake awareness that we opened in the beginning. And so if it doesn't work for you to stay, it'd be a good time to leave now.
Anybody want to use the restroom that's here for the first time? It's right there. Just in case.
Did everybody hear that? Linda, the restroom is right over there if you want to go before the meditation starts. Everybody's in. Yes. Thank you all for being here. Yeah. Everybody ready?
Ready.
All right.
Oh, yeah. Someone do that.
Please.
Okay.
Nobody's gonna stop us.
Settling in. I think the wonderment of the meditation at the nature of awake awareness is that this experience for all of us is exactly the same. This is where we know ourselves as one, as the alert, aware, awake, vibrant, awake awareness, true nature. We are all the same. As things, if things enter in that are personal, then that's what that is. But this is the place that when we go, especially when we go as a group together, we're all experiencing the same true nature. All of our true natures are exactly the same. They are awake awareness in which realities arise. It's the fundamental nature of the one I am. And so we can close our eyes now. And through the breath, just fall in to love.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Alan. Can I close? Yeah, you can close that.
Thank you, Polly.
Thank you, Polly.
Love you.
Thank you, Polly.
Thank you.
Thanks, marvelous Polly. So great to be with you. Bless you, honey.
Thank you, Robin and Yarrow.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Oh.
Linda and Robert. I'm trying to get this on gallery, but it's not going.
Thank you, Polly and Robin. So beautiful. Thank you. I'll see you next week.
Wonderful. Is that
Sequoia.
Sequoia? Thank you.
I'm sorry, I can't get this on gallery for you guys.
It doesn't
Next
help
one.
me.
All right.
Thank you, ladies. Thank you so much.
Good luck, Grace, with COVID. There you go.